Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Old Time Rock and Roll. I'm your host, David Tear, where I've been featuring my personal top 3,000 songs of the rock era from 1954 to 1999. Today, I'm up to song number 2939, and that one is Alive Again by Chicago. This song was featured on their album called Hot Streets that came out in 1978. You can see it looks exactly like the single. And Hot Streets was kind of an unusual album name because Chicago is known for numbering all their albums. I think they numbered all of them up to 11. 11 was the previous one that came out in 77. And then for some reason they decided not to call the next album Chicago 12, but they called it Hot Streets instead. But it was a really good album, and Chicago is a really great group, I think. I mean, I guess I have a lot of personal reasons for liking them. Here's a picture of the whole group. I'm not sure exactly which point in their career this was. Looks like they had 10 members at that time. This wasn't the original lineup, but you see the Chicago logo on the bottom. This they used on all of their albums. Their albums were pretty cool looking, I thought. They all featured this logo, and they had different themes with the logo. Like Chicago 10 had a picture of a chocolate bar. Chicago 9, I think, was a picture of a map of Chicago. They were all kind of unique in different ways. And they were, like I said, they were a really great group. Here was their original lineup. And actually, Chicago started out, they formed in 1967 in the city of Chicago, naturally. Here's a picture of the city of Chicago in case you guys are interested. I lived in Chicago for 7 years from 1985 to 1992. I went to the University of Chicago. I love Chicago. I mean, I think it's a great city. At one time, it was the second largest city in the United States. Now I think it's the third largest after New York and LA. And I still really like it. I think it's a great city. The biggest problem with Chicago, I think, is the weather. Terribly freezing winters every winter. One of the coolest places in the country, mainly because of the wind chills. But it gets below zero anyway. The wind chills just make it worse. But I guess another problem with Chicago, it's pretty badly segregated. But the nice parts of Chicago are really, really nice, like the Loop. Anyway, that's enough about the city. I could go on about that forever. But let's get back to the band. I'm not going to go through their whole history. They're still around, by the way. Like I said, they've gone through many membership changes, but the original lineup included Peter Cetera on bass, Terry Kath on guitar, Robert Lamb on keyboards, Lee Launchnane on trumpet, James Pankow on trombone, Walter Periziter on woodwinds, and Danny Seraphine on drums. And they were kind of a brass band. Chicago was kind of known for that. The city of Chicago was known for having big brass sections in a lot of their bands. I'm not sure why, but the Buckinghams were like that too. The Buckinghams, they were a slightly earlier band. I think they weren't around that long, but they had several big hits. I think in 1967, and they had a big brass section as well. And I think they were a really good group. Maybe Chicago modeled themselves after that. I'm not sure, but anyway, I think Chicago was a great group. And like I said, I'm not going to go through their whole history. I just want to talk a little bit more about the song "Alive Again." I guess I don't think there's that much to say about it, but the one thing I think I should mention is Terry Kath, the originally guitarist. He died in '78, the same year this album came out. And maybe that was the inspiration for the title, Alive Again. Maybe they felt alive again a few months later when they came up with this album. And they still sounded great. I think I haven't kept up with them since. Well, actually, I did see him in concert. I saw him in concert twice. Now that I think about it, well, I mean, the first time the first time I saw him at the Day at the Green in Chicago, they played in the big Grant Park, the big park downtown where they have the Taste of Chicago every 4th of July. One year, I think it was around 85, 86. The band Chicago had a free concert in Grant Park, and I got to see them there. It was so crowded, I don't remember actually seeing the band, and I was very far away from them. But they sounded great. I loved hearing them. And I actually saw them again just a couple of years ago. I saw them. I didn't have to pay for them either time. The funny thing, I there was a my friend had a crazy guy he met. some crazy homeless guy who pretended he was a millionaire. And I guess he had a rich mom who got him into this fancy hotel in downtown LA where I was living at the time. And he got us to go to his hotel, and Chicago happened to be playing there. And I didn't actually see the band, but I heard them play. I heard their whole concert. And this was 2022, and they still sounded fantastic. So, um, kudos to Chicago. And like I said, one of my favorite bands of all time. And they were from a city I lived in for 7 years, so very passionate about this band. And they are one of the biggest bands I feature on my list. I have, I think, 17 songs by them. This is the last one. You'll hear plenty. You'll see me feature plenty more. So anyway, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.